All right, Matt, the mortgage guy here. I've got Mr. Mike Zuber, and we're going to flip the script today rather than let Mike lead. I'm going to throw him some, maybe some curveballs, some fastballs down the middle, Mike. But I always love to hear your take, and I think that the audience does too, on different things. I'm only about a third of the way through Barry Habib's guest appearance on the PBD podcast.
Patrick,
wow. David, for somebody who doesn't follow. Interesting because Barry, he's always been known as kind of the oracle of real estate, and he's won the award for his predictions 4 years in a row. He's actually a board member now on Fantasy's board. So when I saw him a couple weeks in Nashville, he got Bill Pulte to do a live call with this audience of mortgage brokers, which was interesting. But yeah, getting Barry's take, and then I think the PBD podcast is phenomenal. I like it.
Yeah.
And I think I like it too because, they ask real questions and they don't want a politician's answers. And I think Barry's really good about, giving his take on it. So there's some stuff going on with housing and let's just get started. I want to hear your take, not related to that podcast, but first, maybe some flowers for you. I saw some stuff around different people saying that the housing market's in a recession. And I was like, these guys are only a few years behind Zuber, right? Like Zuber could have told you this a long time ago.
Funny.
And like you've said, and like people of, the one rental at a time community know, especially those who are, on school and really active with the community. So for the cup of coffee a day, go join school. Really cheap cup of coffee, actually. What do you think? This is a stat I saw this morning. I'm like, wow, that kind of encapsulates it. We know that, recession in terms of transactions, not a lot of real estate being transacted. Do you know that for the first 9 months of 2025, 28 out of 1,000 homes changed hands?
Yeah.
That represents 2.8%. That's like a 30-year low. It hasn't been this low since the 90s.
Yeah, that's called the turnover. And again, give me my flowers. I called this years ago. So for the longest time, this in mortgage, the average person stayed in their home 8 years. It's now 12. And I told people years ago it's going to 15. You can't introduce lifetime low interest rates and not totally screw up the housing market. Like the Fed broke the housing market. How do you know they broke the housing market? You're seeing statistics that are skewed abnormally high or low, depending on how you look at the situation. And turnover is just an excellent example. I told people years ago that the average tenure in a house is going to go from 8 to close to 15. And we're on our way there. It's now 12. And, we have 2.8% of people moving out of 1,000. It's historically been 4.4 and as high as 5.1. So yes. Am I shocked? No, I called it. I am shocked that people are starting to learn when, oh, by the way, I think the market already bottomed and is coming around, which is really makes me chuckle, right? We got all these people talking about housing recession. You got Scott Bessent saying housing recession. I'm like, yeah, dude, we already hit the bottom. So, we're 1 month into recovery. And it's just funny to see how late people are.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. By the time it hits the headlines and, the average person hears it, you're like, oh, that was something we talked about, roughly a year ago or more. Exactly. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. I've got something that yesterday, another great guy in real estate, Ryan Lundquist, came and spoke to the Sacramento Association of Realtors. This was an interesting chart where you're also familiar with Altos Research. They do some great, market data. This was a graph that Ryan had pulled from them. Ryan shared a bunch of great nuggets, all pertaining to Sacramento and Sacramento County. But again, a lot of stuff around the country rhymes. I know this as somebody who, does loans across the country. Sure. Properties with price decreases. If you look back every single year, it's kind of like, home prices. They go up in the spring and down in the fall, up in the spring, down the fall. Yep. You don't have to be a rocket scientist, right? A public school kid like me can understand this stuff. Yeah. And so the question I asked Ryan when he showed this graph was, he's showing us that we're at like the peak of the price decrease season. And from here, the number of price decreases is going to steadily fall, because in November-ish every year, we hit like the maximum number of properties with price decreases. And, part of this might be that like less properties are going to be put on the market.
Correct.
Last 45 days of the year. So like there's less of a number to see a price decrease. But
correct.
My question for him, and I want to pose it to you, is like, if you're counseling buyers, and I'm going to be labeled bias, you can be an unbiased party.
Sure.
And buyers are like, you know what? I'm going to wait for rates to come down. I'm going to wait for the spring market, more inventory comes on. Like, what do you tell them specifically related to this chart about like, it might be the point of maximum leverage for you right now as a buyer?
Well, again, I've been doing this so long, and as you've undoubtedly seen, my opinions often vary from the mainstream media. Right now, the mainstream media is telling you that it's a horrible time to buy, right? 77% of people say it's a horrible time to buy, which I think is one of the most comically incorrect things I've ever heard. I personally think it's a terrible time to sell. And I think it's a wonderful time to buy, assuming you're ready, assuming you're approved, assuming you're willing to do the work, assuming you write disrespectful offers, assuming you follow up 17 times. It is a great time to buy. It is the best time to buy, Matt, in the last 12 years, because I can find the motivated seller the easiest. I can negotiate rate buy downs. I can get the seller to repair properties. I can get the appraisal to count. I'm not going to make up the difference. This is, you go back a couple of years, you get none of that. So what I would tell everybody is, if you are a well-qualified buyer and you know what you're looking for, write disrespectful offers, follow up 17 times, and go create a deal of a decade or a deal of a lifetime. Now, if you're a seller, sucks hard. Right? I would not want to be a seller. Like, if I'm a seller today, take it off the market, wait till February. Just screw it. It's a horrible time. I'm a buyer.
This leads us into very, very interesting conversation here. I've got a property that I listed Monday personally.
Nice.
And, granted, like, I think you're right. If it was my choice, the timing's not particularly great.
November? Are you kidding me? At least it's not. At least you're in Sacramento. You're not in, I don't know, Buffalo, New York or something.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, what I remind buyers of, who are selling and buying, which I'm doing. I'm going to 1031 exchange a property that's about an hour from me, buy something that's closer to me.
Makes
it's
sense.
not a cash flow play. It's a lifestyle
Peace of
play,
mind.
something that, in the future, family, like my boys could rent one of the units if I buy a duplex in Sacramento and offload this 4x. But the thing is, it might suck to be a seller, but it sucks to be the seller of the house that I'm going to buy too, right? And so
exactly,
if I'm 1031 exchanging a $600,000 property and I have to sell it at a 10% discount, I'll expect to buy with a 10% discount too,
or
so
more.
Net, it's all the same.
So again, like, if you're in that situation, you're a seller and a buyer. So you should always work the system that you come out better than that. But yeah, like, if the person that I feel bad for is a flipper today. Right? You picked up some inventory in the summer. You spent 3.5 months repairing it. Now you're trying to sell in this environment. No, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I would not enjoy that.
I unfortunately have a lot of those conversations. Great client of mine, great guy, done some successful flips, does, buy and hold personal investments. He called me yesterday. He's like, this property is stressing me the F out. Can't unload it. And he's already at the point where he knows, like, if I have to refinance into a DSCR and cut a $30,000 check and break even at best, I just got to get the heck out of this hard money. And, to your point, it's a timing thing. 3-4 months ago would have offloaded
probably
this,
been okay.
Probably no problem. And now, as we enter winter, where, in my opinion, buyers have maximum leverage right now.
Absolutely. You want to be a buyer in this market, not a seller. Yes.
Yeah. For sure. Another stat I wanted to get your opinion on, and you mentioned, I believe, maybe you didn't. First-time home buyers.
Oh yeah, hit 40.
Yeah. Used to be like in the early 30s, like 32, hit 40. What's your prediction on where that number goes? Do we see a time where younger buyers are able to re-enter the market, or are we just going to continue to trend up and the average first-time home buyer is going to be 50?
God, I hope not. I really hope not. And this is where I'm not a big government guy. It's not where I'd go, but we've got to make it. We have to have a national initiative to create entry-level housing. The other stat you should ask me about is not only the median age is 40, but first-time homebuyers are now 21% of the market, and they should be 40% of the market. This is all lifetime lows. This is all the Fed broke housing. This is all the stuff I told you was coming. It's here now. There's only a couple ways out of this. One, it seems like the path we're on now. It's slow, and it could take a decade. Because over a decade, prices will be basically flat, and wages will slowly rise. And we will just tooth and nail work our way out of it in a decade, which is not something we should hope for. That is not okay. The other way is we have a national initiative to create first-time homebuyer homes like we did in 1950. We have to make it profitable. Profit is not the devil, but we have to make it profitable. If it's not profitable to create a 1,200 square foot home, they're not going to build them. We need a national initiative, probably in 30 states, to create millions of entry-level homes. And there's one third answer. The third answer is you get the 30-year mortgage to 4%. Because what happens at 4%? You get the move-up buyer. And when a move-up buyer enters the market, you will unlock all of these entry-level housing. One of the reasons there's none of it transacting is that's why the median price is so high, because it's simply not transacting. People are frozen. They're locked in place. So either A, you build a lot more, B, you kick rates down to 4%, or you just let time go on. Right? There's only three ways out of this mess.
Yeah, and I think the most likely scenario in my eyes is the time thing, where it's a slow healing.
God, it's going to suck.
Affordability. Well, you said 10 years, and wages slowly increase. There's guys like Elon. He jumped on Joe Rogan's podcast last Friday, and with AI and efficiency and stuff, like he's talking about economic prosperity for all, where some utopian world where
science fiction's beautiful. Yeah. Okay.
but maybe not to that extreme, but to think of a world where we see wage increases higher than in the past because of
it happens. I hope it happens. Again, I would love to have a decade where the quote unquote employee prospered more than the boss. I think we've had decades where the CEOs and VPs took out disproportionately amount of the wage and the profit. I would love a decade where the employees got theirs. That would be great.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to see a case for 10% wage growth year on year for any sustained amount of time.
That's very unlikely. Historically speaking, it's very unlikely.
Right. Yeah. All right. Any parting words as it relates to this quote unquote crisis we're in? Because now everybody's talking about it. You were screaming from the rooftops of the Fed broke housing, and now we're like literally years later. Yeah. Where the FHFA major everybody is like, we've got a crisis, and Zuber's sitting in his studio going, you think?
You think, idiots?
For a few years, fellas.
Yeah, it's fun to get the masses on board, and but yeah, dude, we've been talking about this for 2.5 years. Yeah, it's pretty comical. I am curious. Did Barry Habib make any interest rate calls on the PBD podcast?
The only part that I saw, because again, it was like a 2-hour podcast. I was
Yeah.
about 40 minutes into it this morning, and,
Sure.
and kind of playing it as I was
Yeah.
going through emails. Talked about interest rates coming down, and of course, PBD was like, "Well, how much is down?"
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I don't. I wasn't paying close enough attention, or they didn't get into enough detail that I caught about, like, what specifically. But I'm interested, Mike. Like, I'm not in the granular data kind of guy.
Yeah.
But this talk of quantitative easing starting December 1st from the Fed, them buying mortgage-backed securities, that's downward pressure on rates. Like I was telling somebody before, it was like you just hope rates go lower with no real thing to point at. Now it's like, the Fed's cutting the Fed funds rate, the Fed's doing quantitative easing. There's some stuff you can actually point at to go like, this should have downward pressure on rates.
Yeah, no, there's no question. So again, what they're actually doing is they're stopping QT, quantitative tightening, on December 1st, which means they will be buying bonds instead of letting them roll off and letting the balance sheet shrink. I believe they're not going to buy mortgage-backed securities. They're only going to buy treasuries. That said, that could also have an impact on rates, just not as direct.
Yeah.
The question you should be asking yourself, and the question I ask myself, is we know one thing for certain. In May, Jerome Powell will be replaced. That is going to happen. The question you and I should be asking ourselves is, okay, when the new person comes in, will they buy mortgage-backed securities?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is yes. I think that'll happen.
Right.
And then
more than likely somebody who's put in that position on purpose.
They will know. Thou shalt buy mortgage-backed securities.
Right. Yeah. You are being put in this seat, and this is your directive on what we would like you to do in thy seat.
So it's not that far away. By the summer of next year, assuming that happens, rates could be meaningfully lower. Could be.
All right. Stay tuned, everybody. Looking forward to it. Thanks for the good talk, brother. Quick shout out, Matt the Mortgage Guy on YouTube. I talked to somebody the other day that was like, I've been following you for years on ORAT. Just found out you have a channel. So I've got my own channel, Matt the Mortgage Guy on YouTube. And if you want to connect with me and my team, go to mtmg.com, my website. Plenty of stuff to see, plenty of information there. Interact with the chat feature on there. Schedule yourself a call. If you want to do that, provide some information so I know exactly what you're looking to do. I had, greatmortgagebroker.com set up. I'm probably just going to forward that to the website. But if you find yourself on greatmortgagebroker.com, there's some questions to answer. But I think I'm just going to have everyone go to mtmg.com and we'll take it from there.
There you go. Awesome, buddy. Take care. Have a good week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.